And obviously Henry Stone and Stone's Meats for that wonderful meal. I don't know about you, I got a plate of that turkey and I think it was a little bit raw. Maybe it was me. Where's Michelle Kurtz? I think I see her over there. If you haven't met Michelle yet, she's the new Ag Ed teacher at Chipley High School, heading up the FFA program over there. They wanted me to announce that on Saturday, December 17th, they're doing a fundraiser for the 4-H Top Shots. Gary Clark's project. Obviously, these guys are doing a wonderful job, taking all kinds of honors from across the state. In spite of being a relatively small area here, they're showing really well. So on the 17th, and will that be at Hard Labor Creek? So if you can get up with Michelle or Gary, get some information about that. Support that 4-H group. I'll tell you what, Gary's come on the TV show a couple times talking about them, and all I have to do is say, how are those guys doing? And 30 minutes later, I say, okay, that's the end of the show. Rightfully proud of that group of young men. Also want to mention once again, because I have been admonished to do so, please do not take the centerpieces from the table. Those belong to the Chipley Garden Club. I saw Sandra Cook grabbing one a while ago, and I said, and Bobby luckily was sitting close enough that she backed off. You know, I picked on George a while ago, and just because of that, I'll do it again. A while ago, he had a friend of his from Texas visiting him, and he and his friend were out there looking at George's spread, and the guy from Texas said, well, how much land you got here? And George said, well, I'm working about 600 acres, more or less. How about you? The Texas guy says, well, I'll tell you what. You start in the morning at sunrise and start driving across my property, and by sunset, you won't have reached the other end. George looked at him and said, yeah, I had a truck like that one time. Matt Orwatt, I know you get your mouth full over there. If you haven't met Matt Orwatt, stand up, Matt. And Matt heads up the Horticultural Extension Service. Not too long ago, he was at Mr. Gainer's farm, and he looked down and he said, man, you know, I hate to tell somebody that they're doing something wrong, but I guarantee you that you're not going to get a bushel full of blueberries out of that patch right there. And Mr. Gainer looked at him and said, well, that's because that's a blackberry patch right there, Matt. I saw Todd last week, Todd Abbott, that is, for any of you who aren't familiar with Todd. He said, you going to the Farm City Banquet? I said, as a matter of fact, I am. I'm going to MC it. And I said, are you going? He said, I was. And unfortunately, he's not here today, but the interesting thing about Todd, I'm going to tell this on him anyway. He at one time said he wasn't going to accept the mileage allowance, and now obviously he is, and that's fine, and, you know, that's his right. But what he's done to offset that is he's hired a driver. So he's got a driver that drives him around, and when somebody in the county has a problem, and they call Todd, especially in District 5, he'll go ahead and, or District 4 rather, he'll go out there and he'll check it out. The other day they were driving along and they ran over a cat. And so Todd said, well, to his driver, said, you need to go up there to that farm and tell those people that you ran over their cat. So the guy got out. About an hour and a half later, he finally comes back to the truck. And Todd said, my goodness, where have you been all this time? He said, man, I walked up to the door, they hugged my neck, they gave me something to eat, I couldn't get away. He said, well, what did you say to him? I identified myself. I said, I'm Todd Abbott's driver. I just ran over the jackass out there. And I'm only kidding as far as you know. We have got some really interesting people here. This young lady is nervous, and so we're not going to point out the fact that she's got something between her teeth right now. Grace Lovett actually graduated from Chipley High School in 1988. She's gone on to do great things for the Adam Putnam administration with the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Affairs right here in Florida. If you were at the Possum Festival a couple years ago during election stumping time, you saw Adam out there. Spent a lot of time in Washington County. Real good guy, doing some really good things. Hopefully doing the things that you as people in the agricultural industry need. If he's not, now's a good opportunity to let Grace know about that after she gets off the stage. If you would put your hands together for Miss Grace Lovett, who heads up the legislative affairs for the Florida Department of Agriculture. You gotta get really close.
I get really close. Is he funny, or are we sure he's funny? I know he's trying real hard.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight to represent Commissioner Adam Putnam and the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. He sends his regards and his congratulations to all the honorees. Okay, yes, I'm nervous, and I appreciate him pointing that out. There's a lot of people in the room that I kind of want to make proud. My mom's here, which I'm a Potter, by the way. Grace Lovett, certainly, but Jane Potter is my mom, and Alan is my dad, and Ray Kygot's out there, and just a lot of good memories here, and just feel like this hometown crowd is always a tough one to come back to. And even my boss, as I was leaving today, he was like, you know, the worst speech I ever gave was in front of my hometown crowd, so good luck, Grace. I was like, thanks a lot, thanks a lot. When I started talking with Commissioner Putnam to come work with him, I think he appreciated that I had a bit of an agriculture background. There's not a lot of lobbyists in Tallahassee that can say they had a cow as a pet. So he and I are getting along really well, and I'm really enjoying working for him and representing agriculture. It's been about 10 months since he was sworn in as Commissioner of Agriculture, and if you ask him what his top 3 priorities were, he would say nutrition, energy, and water. I think he'd say the challenges he thinks we're going to be facing ahead are pest and disease, immigration reform, and water quantity and quality. Maybe there was something wrong. I need my glasses. Here in Florida, we have an abundance of nutritious and wholesome foods to feed our residents. Encouraging consumers to eat more healthy foods will instill a value in them for fresh produce, and most importantly, for the industry that produces these foods. Commissioner Putnam is working to expand access to high-quality, nutritious foods for Floridians in urban cores, public assistance programs, and Florida's school cafeterias. This past legislative session, Commissioner Putnam worked closely with members of the legislature to introduce and pass the Healthy Schools for Healthy Lives Act. This bill transferred the school food nutrition programs to the department from the Department of Education. At the department, we have the capabilities to educate students on health and nutrition. We also have the relationships with the industry that will allow us to connect schools and farms so they can serve fresh, locally grown fruits and vegetables. We're going to instill a value in children at a young age for fresh and wholesome foods, which will hopefully lead to a lifetime of healthy eating. There are other ways Commissioner Putnam is working to expand access to Florida produce. He's looking to connect local farmers with public assistance programs and nonprofits. We're working with a nonprofit called Wholesome Way to double the redemption value of SNAP cards when used to buy fresh fruits and vegetables, meaning that individuals with food assistance are incentivized to buy healthy foods because they get twice what they pay for. We're working with farmers markets to install the EBT card readers so the SNAP cards can be used to pay for produce at farmers markets. Ultimately, these efforts to expand access to Florida's fresh fruits and vegetables will not only encourage healthy eating, but raise demand and appreciation for the agriculture industry. At the department, we're also
Co-op and One South Bank. Please join with me in a warm Chipley welcome for Big Ben Bluegrass.